Welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show on News Talk 95.1 FM and 790 AM KFYO. And joining us on the phones right now, Stephen Orr, West Texas Friday Night Scoreboard Show, which you can hear right here on KFYO on Friday nights from 10 to midnight. Stephen, welcome back. How are you?
Good morning, Chad. I'm great. How are you?
Doing great. I know we've missed the first 2 weeks.
A delay of game
that's
penalty
right.
on us.
That's right. It's a delay. Well, let me ask you this, so that way we can kind of get caught up. Have we learned anything in the first 2 weeks of the young football season?
Well, we've got a couple of surprises here and there. You know, a lot of times, especially in week one, it's very similar to what we see in college and things like that. There's a lot of mismatches, and I mean, yeah, you might see a game or two where there's an upset or something like that. I think really this week is when things start shaking out and you really maybe get a little better idea of where teams are. It's just hard to tell on records alone because there's some teams that had really tough matchups that are playing up and other teams that maybe scheduled some weaker opponents to kind of get their footing. But we should have a good week this week. You know, I think one team that I'm encouraged by, even in losses right now, is Lubbock High. They've played tough, and you know they're 0-3 after losing last night to Plainview, but they lost that game 21-14. But Lubbock High has been in all 3 games they played in. The game they played last week against Borger, they lost in overtime by 1 point. So that's a team that I think we can expect to see maybe get a little bit of traction as we go on. Plainview got their first win over Lubbock High last night. Peyton McNutt scored 3 touchdowns, ran 20 times for 162 yards, and he's actually a cornerback that had to come over and play running back because Plainview's main running back is out. So pretty good adjustment there by him.
Yeah, definitely. Well, what are some of the big games tonight?
Well, Lubbock Coronado is going to travel down to the Permian Basin to take on Odessa High. Coronado's at 1-1, coming off that 1 point loss to Lubbock Cooper last week, at 43-42, and then Odessa's 2-0 on the year. And they played Buckeye, Arizona last week and beat them 63-7. So 2 teams that have the ability to put a lot of points on the board. I think Coronado is actually the better team. Again, when you look at that, Lubbock Cooper being one of the better teams on the South Plains and Coronado hanging with them, I think Coronado could come out back home tonight with a win. You've got Friendship taking on Lubbock Cooper. Friendship wants to make a statement here, and Cooper wants to continue that role. And that should be a pretty good ball game as well. I think the Pirates probably end up coming out on top in that one. Monterey takes on Clovis, New Mexico. Monterey sitting at 1-1 on the year. They lost to Odessa High the first week of the season, 23-11, and then won their game last week. They just need to get consistent on offense, I think, and be able to consistently put points on the board. And I'm not that familiar with Clovis, but I know historically Clovis has been a tough team and a good team, so that should be a good matchup for Monterey, but I think they can come out with the win. Lubbock Estacado is at 1-1 on the year, and they lost to Coronado the first week of the season. They rebounded with a win last week, but they're going to take on a Caprock team up there in Amarillo that's 2-0 on the year. But this is one of those 2-0s I was talking about where maybe the schedule's not quite as strong. So that should be a really competitive and good ball game. One of the games I'm really looking forward to is Andrews at Levelland. Andrews is 1-1 on the year. Levelland 1-1. Andrews lost a two-point game to Big Spring the first week of the year, 54-52. Levelland lost to Shallowater last week. But both of these teams can put a ton of points on the board, and this ought to be a really good ball game over in Levelland tonight that ought to be worth watching. Shallowater takes on Midland Greenwood, and the Rangers are 1-1 on the year. Their preseason schedule a little tougher, but I think this is going to be another real good game. Greenwood's is projected by most to be in contention for a district championship and certainly for a playoff spot. Shallowater is continuing where they kind of left off last year, and I think that could be a really good ball game. Battle of the Wildcats in Littlefield tonight as Idlewild comes to town. Littlefield has struggled this year, and they may be in a bit of a rebuilding mode. Idlewild, I think, is a little bit stronger coming off their win last week, and I think they could come out of there with a win. Big ball game at New Deal tonight. Slayton comes to town 2-0 to take on a 2-0 New Deal team. This is a game where both teams are really looking to stake their claim. New Deal, their two previous opponents have not won a game yet. But they also are going to see tougher competition than they have from Slayton. But New Deal has a couple of really good athletes on that team, and that should be a really good game. And if Slayton is able to stay with them, that speaks very well of them. They lost to New Deal last year 25-18, and they're going to want to make a little bit of a statement there. But again, New Deal very strong and predicted to be in contention for the district championship come the end of the year. Another game that's going to be interesting is Lubbock Roosevelt at 0-2 hosting Post at 1-1. Historically, you'd say Post is the favorite here, but they've struggled a little bit early in the season, maybe not been as consistent as you'd like to be on offense, and so I think there's a chance for Roosevelt, but that should be a good ball game. Floyd County Championship played tonight in Floydada with Floydada Whirlwinds 2-0 hosting the 0-2 Lockney Longhorns. Floydada has played pretty well. Their hallmark is defense. The offense has put some points on the board, but where they've been really good is just playing a really good brand of defensive football. Lockney has struggled to score this year so far. They've had some pretty tough losses as far as point spread and all. I think Floydada probably gets the win in that one. By the way, if Floydada does start tonight, it will be their best start since 2002 at 3-0. So a lot on the line there. New Home trying to get their first win of the year and first win in program history in 11-man football as they travel down to take on a 1-1 Plains team. Then you've also got Lubbock All Saints traveling over to Lorenzo in 6-man football. Big 6-man football game I'm looking at is Whit Harrell and Petersburg, both 2-0 on the year. That should be a good ball game. And then the Broncos of Meadow take on the Anton Bulldogs. Meadow, not something we're used to seeing, but they're 0-2 on the year. So can they catch their traction? Can they get back in the win column? And can Anton continue to roll and improve to 2-1?
Wow, a lot of great games. And we're going to have good weather, it looks like.
You know, and I wasn't thinking that at the early part of the week, the way they were forecasting it, but yeah, it looks like we're going to have nice, mild temperatures. Should be just right for sitting outside watching some great football.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we ask you this. We asked you this every time last year. Going to ask you that every time this year. If there are one or two, maybe three games that people really need to go and see, what are they?
On my list, it's Slayton at New Deal, number 1, and Andrews at Levelland, number 2, and then that Friendship Lubbock Cooper game.
All right, so three really good games, and
really good
games. It's going to be it's just going to be a nice night. It's going to be a nice Friday night to get out there, and like you said, it's week 3, so these teams are going to really find out where they are. I think starting this week.
Well, I really think we're going to start seeing a little bit of separation and have a whole lot better idea. And some of these bigger districts around, we're 2 weeks away from district play.
Yeah, it's coming up. It's coming up. Hey, Stephen, good to visit with you again this year. Appreciate you giving us a call, and we'll visit with you again next week.
Chad, appreciate it as always, and we'll talk to you next Friday. Okay?
All right, sounds great. That's Stephen Orr with the West Texas Friday Night Scoreboard Show. You can listen to it right here on News Talk 95.1 FM, 790 AM KFYO from 10 to midnight. You can also listen to it on the KFYO app as you're driving around West Texas.